Well, there's the music. Being a Thursday morning, it's time for our resident lawyer, Despina Priala of boutique law firm Priala Legal in Runaway Bay. She's with us each and every Thursday at this time to offer her legal expertise by providing some general advice on the latest hot topics. Of course, she has experience that spans more than 25 years in the areas of property and commercial law. She also prepares wills as part of estate planning. Is there anything she doesn't do? She also talks on the radio, and she's with us this morning. Hello, Despina.
Good morning, Wayne. Good morning, Brooke.
Good morning, and you're in the flesh. It's so nice to see you in person.
In the flesh. It's good to be here.
So good. And this morning, obviously, while you've been gone, some stuff has been happening this past week, including the Religious Discrimination Bill. So this is a draft, which we will mention time and time again throughout the show that this is just a draft, but some big things could change. So what's the update, Des?
Yes, so it is a draft, as you say, and I think this is the third or fourth draft of the bill. And it's perhaps a controversial bill in some respects, and I think it's definitely had a lot of public attention. And yes, and it's still being scrutinised quite heavily, as you've probably read in the social media headlines recently. So what I thought we would do this morning is talk a little bit about it from the point of view of really trying to understand what the purpose and intent is of the bill by looking at the explanatory memorandum, which perhaps some people don't know what that may mean and what an explanatory memorandum is. And I think that would be quite useful for those who are interested in the bill. I dare say there's a lot of people out there that are interested in the bill.
Yeah, it's certainly getting plenty of headlines, courtesy of, well, this is only 3 months away from an election, a federal election, and this was actually a commitment made by the Prime Minister and the Liberal or the Coalition before the previous election.
Yes, that's how I understand it as well. So I suppose quite timely, isn't it, with an election year? That's what we have. So let's go through a few aspects of the bill. Now, for those that don't know, when a bill is issued for public consultation and review, there is always attached what's called an explanatory memorandum. So what you can actually do, you can find that online because it's for the public to view. And in that explanatory memorandum, it explains perhaps at a more simplistic level, the purpose and intent of the bill. Now that's very important because it basically provides the foundations and the background to why has this bill come about, why are there certain provisions contained within the bill, and it provides a clearer understanding by giving examples. So they might say, okay, this clause is in the bill and this is what it means. Here's an example. So then examples are always a great way to try and explain to people, yes, provisions in contracts, documents, in this case, bills. So I would encourage those who are very interested to just simply go online and Google Explanatory Memorandum, Religious Discrimination Bill, and you will find it. It's a very long document, but
as they always are.
as they always are. But you might find certain pockets and aspects of it that would be useful for you to understand. So I thought we would go through some things this morning that I have taken from that explanatory memorandum, which might be interesting. So if we go back and look at the bill, so the bill, as they say, so everything I'm talking about is really being quoted from the explanatory memorandum. It's not my personal belief, of course. It's taken from here, so I could say it's factual based on the information we have today,
of course,
as published. So what it's saying is that the bill is designed and intended to provide a uniform approach across Australia to ensure that religious beliefs and religious or non-religious beliefs and activities are going to be protected against discrimination. And what they're saying is, look, this is going to be at a federal level, therefore we will have consistency and uniformity rather than trying to include it in each of the states and territories' legislation, because then we have inconsistencies. So I understand that from a federal Commonwealth point of view. So what we have at the moment, we talk about discrimination, and we've talked about it on the show before, and we do have pieces of legislation we've had for several years, such as we have Anti-Discrimination Act, and we have laws about discrimination dealing with things like age, sex, colour, race, pregnancy, disability, sexual orientation. There's a lot of attributes that are currently protected by discrimination laws. But religion has always been a bit of a grey area, and it hasn't, perhaps in some views, been probably properly protected as much as those other protected attributes that I just mentioned. And if the intent behind this bill is to provide the same level of protection than the other attributes I talked about, then I would understand why they've introduced it. Now, whether or not the bill would actually, if it's going to do that in the end and provide that protection,
Or cause more issues.
cause more issues and be perhaps more controversial, because we've seen recently in the headlines certain groups who are not happy with the provisions of the bill for certain reasons. So therefore, it becomes quite a difficult bill perhaps to make everybody happy and to provide protection perhaps to all groups, perhaps within Australia. So it's definitely a bill that's going to be having, or will have, more public scrutiny.
For sure.
Undoubtedly. So when we talk about the bill, let's go through some other things. So it does say things like, look, the bill is intended to promote attitude changes in society. So where people are judged on the basis of their abilities and their skills, and not to be judged on the basis of their religious beliefs. Yeah, and let's be clear. So this bill is designed to protect people in society that have religious beliefs and make statements about religious beliefs, but also those who don't have religious beliefs. So we say non-religious beliefs. So perhaps groups or people that are atheists or that have agnostic beliefs or statements.
And that's, that's such a key thing there too, because I think now when you read the headlines, say if you were, say, an atheist or something, you read these headlines and go, oh, religious discrimination bill, I don't care, I'm not religious. And it's like, hold on, it really does affect you as well, because there's statements there that do apply to atheists as well as someone who's Catholic or Christian or whatever else.
That's right. So when we talk about this bill, we are talking about protecting people if they make oral statements, written statements, other forms of communication, not public contact, of course, and they are trying to also cover things such as, or what is called, a statement of belief, which has been hitting the headlines, and it's a bit of a controversial issue as to what that means. What does it mean if I make a statement of belief? And that's supposed to be protected. So it's a little bit, we can't obviously go through all the aspects of it, but what it's trying to say from reading this explanatory memorandum is, if you make a statement of religious belief, it's got to be made in good faith, and it's got to be genuinely held by the person, and it's got to form part of a religious doctrine. So say, for example, you make a statement of religious belief based on a religion that doesn't exist, that you've just made up. Well,
the purple fairy will save me in 3
Exactly.
days' time. Take that, Jen. But that is obviously, not anywhere. I
That's
made that
right.
up. Got you.
So that wouldn't be protected.
Yes, that
You
makes
see?
sense.
Yes, you can understand that. So other things that would be protected, for example, if you cross yourself, like in the Christian faith, on your chest, that would be protected if for some reason someone thought you were being, in some way. Yes.
Okay, sure.
So there are lots of examples that are included in the bill that say, look, based on this, the bill would protect you, and based on this, it wouldn't protect you. So a person who has, for example, a philosophical belief based on something that's not really grounded in religion, and it's not attached to a form or a doctrine of religion, is going to be difficult to pass and be protected by a statement of belief. So the other aspect of this bill is that it is trying to capture those statements, so oral and written statements and communications and conduct and activities in the public. So when we talk about that, we're talking about areas such as your employment, such as education, and we've had an interesting article recently about that college in Brisbane.
City Point Christian College.
That's right. And also in the provision of goods and services. So it is trying to capture a wide area of activity, I suppose, or conduct of a person within the public eye to either be protected under this bill or not, depending on what it is.
Now, you mentioned that it's up to its third or fourth draft, so they're obviously having some issues trying to get it into a form that would be accepted and passed in Parliament.
Yes, because it has aspects of it that are potentially or are controversial, and I suppose it depends from your viewpoint, doesn't it? Because religion is such a personal belief, and I think it covers a lot of different areas. And someone who doesn't have a religious belief as well, it's going to it's going to have a lot of careful thought before it actually can get passed, if it does get passed at all.
Yeah,
Well, as you say, it's a promise.
Only got 3 months as well before the federal election, so they're going to have to scoot fairly quickly to get it done.
Well, that's right. And I think if it does get passed, perhaps particularly because it is an election year and promises were made, as you say, undoubtedly there's going to be changes, reforms down the track, because I think it's a difficult bill to try and capture all and sundry and what it's trying to do within the Australian community. I understand why they were looking at it and why it was initially published and for review, and why the government was looking at trying to provide for some protection, because we've had instances over the years where people have been seen to be perhaps acting in a discriminatory manner, but it was based on a religious belief and it wasn't properly protected by state or federal legislation. So I guess to be on the same level playing field on an equality basis, I would understand why they would introduce such a bill, because the other attributes, as I said, are protected. Religion, perhaps not so much protected like the other attributes. So on that basis, to make an even playing field, I would probably support it, but it really has to have a lot more...
it might need more time.
Yes.
To go into it, to make sure
a lot more review,
all parties are completely dealt with fairly,
and not just rushed through. Perhaps on a knee-jerk reaction.
Because it does feel very quick.
Yes, it does.
It does feel quick.
Yes.
That is Despina Priala there from boutique law firm Priala Legal. And coming up next, a popular Gold Coast burger place went under over a debt they apparently didn't even know they had. Coming up on Talking Law, stay tuned.